That's the sound. That sound is American. Many claim that it's perhaps our most unique artistic achievement. Frenchmen have written brilliantly about it. Russians play it. It's known everywhere Americans have been or where radios are heard. It's part of our national message, part of our basic expression. There are many variations on the name, but most people call it jazz. The story of jazz that most of us know is a simple one, probably too simple. Most of us are familiar with the story as it began in New Orleans about the turn of the century. Not the first chapter of that, but a lusty, vigorous one, for jazz was expressing the feelings of an uninhibited people. The names of these early jazz men are part of our national history and part of New Orleans' glory. Buddy Bolden, Willie Bunk Johnson, King Oliver. These are a few of the names of the men who took the raw materials and molded them into jazz. And New Orleans is proud of the heritage these men bequeathed them, proud of the art that grew upon their streets. New Orleans respects jazz and has enshrined it in the Latter Memorial Library. Here we find the instruments, the recordings, and documents of jazz. The bust of Oscar Papa Celestin watches over the huge collection of sound permanently transcribed for history. Celestin made music through a horn, and the sound that he made is a part of this museum. Bessie Smith, she's here too. Perhaps the greatest of the blues singers who helped jazz give its name to an age.
And on the right side of my pillow, my man has gone away.
They're all here, and maybe some of the names are unfamiliar, but each of them added his own hot licks to the music and sent it on its way around the world. gift is ours. New Orleans tied on the pretty blue ribbon, but inside that gift, at the core, at the very heart of jazz, lies a century of sweated labor, pain, and oppression. Jazz may have been born in New Orleans, but it was conceived elsewhere. And the forces that welded it and shaped it bring to us the starting point for a voyage, an odyssey that takes us back to the very beginnings of a hard way of life that created its own kind of music.
They say the old blues music, the roof strain, is almost gone now. Looking for it would mean retracing its wayward flow hundreds of miles up the big river, the Mississippi. It's a trip in time as well as miles. The time is long ago, beyond the bayous, beyond the deltas, beyond the memory of New Orleans. It's a journey in search of a past, a fragment of history, a romantic piece from the storybooks except for those few who endured the reality. Looking for the few who remember means following the road along obscure tributaries that drain down the Mississippi watershed or into the Gulf Coast. The Leaf River, the Tombigbee, the Chunky, and Bogchito Creek. It means tracing Mississippi byways, exploring small towns, cutting through swamps of pine and sweet gum in Alabama bottomlands. These unwinding miles have kept a secret intact. The people who inhabit them witnessed the birth of a music that became a giant in the span of their lifetime. They never called it jazz. That came afterward. Yet the roots of our strongest American music grew here. Grew to maturity in conflict and poverty. 500 miles or more from New Orleans, there's a river that flows along the borders of the Talladega National Forest in Alabama. The Indians called it Cahaba. A few hundred yards from the banks of the Cahaba, all that is left of a once prosperous plantation stands at a crossroads. Down one of the roads in Sprott lives a man who takes his name from the plantation family that once owned his mother and his grandmother. His name is Horace Sprott. His memory goes back to a time before the birth of jazz, to the years of its conception, and thus he is himself a kind of museum. This is Leela Ford. The Fords and Sprotts are cousins. It's 11:30. At this hour, every working hand is out in the field. It's hot, and the half hour before the noon bell rings is the longest. These are Horace Sprott's two sons, Herbert and Arthur.